Emily, are you ready?
I'm ready. Go ahead.
Okay, fantastic. Jameson?
All right. Good morning, everyone. I agree with Tom's comments. It is good to see many of our familiar names on the attendee list. This is the way that we've got to connect, so I think all of us have done our best to make the best of it. From a board perspective, we had our board meeting last week. One of the major topics really was budget. So we've gone back in and really reviewed the budget that we approved at the beginning of 2020, projected that out through the end of the year, and then on a quarterly basis, we'll go back in to review that. The biggest piece is trying to keep our arms around the accounts receivable, which obviously is you guys as the membership. Yeah, any help that you guys can provide with that, we appreciate it. The Economic Alliance has kind of been in a unique scenario where with all of the stimulus packages and PPP and everything, the 501c6s they've not been eligible for any of this. So we're managing through it, and Mike and Emily are doing an outstanding job really watching expenses. And that really is the board update. At that point, I'll turn it over to Mike for our executive director update.
Thank you, Jameson. As of August 7th, national unemployment rate is at 10.2%, which is down from 11.1 off the high of 14.7. Last week, we had 1.2 million people file for initial unemployment, and that is also down from 1.4. So currently, approximately 16 million people are receiving benefits. We expect this to change a little bit because as of July 25th, the Pandemic Emergency Employment Comp, or PEUC, from the CARES Act has sunsetted, so that will have some kind of impact. In terms of La Plata County, this is trailing a month because the Department of Labor doesn't report at the same time for municipalities and counties. But we have, as of June, 10.3% unemployment in La Plata County. This is off a high as well of April of 13.7, but we expect this to continue to have a downward trend as well. At the end of actually, as of August 8th, PPP deadline expired, and there were still about $129 billion in the fund, but our market performed extremely well. We applied for $113 million worth of grants. That is spread across 1,646 loans or grants, and it encompasses just over or just under 13,000 employees, which is 12,896 employees, which is fantastic. So I think all the work that we did trying to get everybody through the stimulus really paid off. As Jameson stated, that we submitted a second half budget for 2020. We're in cost, just like everybody else, we're in cost cutting mode right now and looking to balance our budget for the second half. We also submitted what our focus areas would be for the next 5 months, and that includes planning as it relates to land use code, workforce development, specifically forest health initiatives, La Posta development and funding, workforce and attainable housing, and last but not least, membership services, especially as it relates to COVID-19 and capacity. Activity within the last few weeks, land use code, we submitted another set of comments to the second draft, and I had an opportunity to present to the Board of County Commissioners. One of the concepts that we are really pushing on is that of the formulation of a review committee. We believe that based on the time frame and the fact that there's no way possible for the land use code to be 100% going through, that it would behoove everybody to have a standing committee that continues to look for amendments and refinements of the land use code. If anybody wants a copy of those comments, please email myself or Emily, and we'll distribute those. We are also working on a remote worker recruitment program. We just filed for a READY grant in partnership with the City of Durango and SCAPE. I think that grant went in yesterday afternoon, if not this morning. It is due today. The sewer study is complete. We'll submit that to the county and to the city, and we're now looking to create funding and development scenarios for La Posta in partnership with the city and the county, and those meetings are ongoing. Protect Your Neighbor, we still have some PPE available on the southwestcoda.org. Emily still has some masks and some sanitizers, and we're looking into gloves for the restaurants. We're continuing to monitor our status with San Juan Basin Health, and right now, just based on number of cases, we are not eligible to apply for Protect Your Neighbor to increase our capacity for opening. We have some great news in that we launched a project that the Alliance has been very close to and active in called Aid to All that launched last week. And we've got Matt Taylor on the agenda, and he'll actually talk about what those micro grants for our workforce mean and how people apply and what the parameters around that are. Last but not least, we'll continue with some virtual events into September. So the Future of Work, this is an event that we sponsored last year and had great, phenomenal attendance. Unfortunately, we'll have to do it virtually this year. That is scheduled for September 29th. Expect Emily to reach out to some of you to participate as a mentor, as we did last year. In lieu of the summit, we're scheduling some mini summits. The first one will be September 22nd, and it will focus on retail and restaurants. And the next investor meeting will be on the third Tuesday of the month as opposed to second due to a holiday on that Monday. So we'll push the meeting to the 15th, and we'll advertise that heavily so everybody's aware of that. Jameson, that's all I've got for my report.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. We'll roll into the rest of the agenda. First, we're going to go in and talk about some of the school reopening updates, and I'll turn it over to our fearless leader up at Fort Lewis, Tom Striticus.
Great. Thanks, Jameson. It's super to be on with my other fearless K-12 leaders. These are exciting jobs that we all have, and this year, I think prepping for COVID has just been unlike any other year. I think you'll hear that from my soups. High level that I want the community to take away is we put a stake in the ground early around in-person instruction because it's the right thing to do for our students. And as case counts have risen a bit, we are going to exceed much of what the state is recommending to be as safe as we can about this. And we believe that if students do what we're asking them to do, they'll be as safe or safer than their home communities and protect Durango as well. Next slide, Emily. So a couple quick things. Face coverings will be required on campus, in any building and in the heart of campus. If you're one of those people who like to walk through campus, a smiling, friendly president will come up to you and say, masks are mandatory on campus outside. We really want to normalize mask wearing. The evidence on this is really good. Every student, every person who steps on campus is required to do an hour-and-a-half health awareness course that gives people information on the virus, how it spreads. We think that's really important. We're training symptom trackers ourselves, working with San Juan Basin Public Health. We've worked with an outside vendor and a philanthropy here in Colorado to be able to test every single student who moves into the residence halls. Those tests will be available back to us within 48 to 72 hours, and we think they're hitting that test time based on another higher ed institution they're working with in the state. This will give us really good visibility into the prevalence of the disease. And then every student's getting a welcome pack with thermometer and PPE. You can go to the next slide, Emily. A couple quick things on calendar. We're starting a week early and then ending at Thanksgiving and sending everybody home. We have lots of classroom shifts going on. Essentially, we're using tents on campus, a bunch. We've spread classrooms out so that rooms are maintaining the appropriate physical distancing and capacity stuff. And then another thing that we've done, and again, kudos, our team has just been incredible. If you know folks on the senior leadership team, send them a love note. They've been working nonstop. We have about 15% of our courses that are purely online, another 35% that allow remote access. So it's a face-to-face class for some, and then a Zoom in class for others. And then another 50% of our classes are just completely normal, sort of face-to-face. You go to the next slide. This maybe next slide. Sorry, this is a presentation we've been using with our families. Sorry, go to the previous slide, Emily. I apologize about that. A big part of what we've been saying is that we're in this together and we're protecting each other. So what I do in terms of wearing my mask in my private office, which I will be, I'm at home right now, I'll be going to campus in a second, protect someone's family. And we're just going to really stress that. And our families are really responding well to that. Dining services will be open, it'll be modified, look like some of the restaurants. As you know, athletics, football, and some of the higher risk sports have been moved to spring. And then we've also de-densified our residence halls. Our quads have become doubles have become singles, and we've partnered with a local hotel to ensure that anyone who wanted a single can get a single. By and large, the big issue here is that you can move on to I'm done with that slide. You can move on. By and large, the big issues here are using all of our channels, social media, Instagram, Facebook, to communicate to parents. We've been doing town halls. And we're just stressing this is different. Don't come to campus if you're not really willing to do the things we're asking you to do. And that's really think about how your behavior impacts others. So we're excited to kick this off. We're excited to fulfill our mission. And with that, I'll turn it over to whichever one of my amazing superintendent colleagues is next. And it's Dan Snowberger. So Dan, take it away.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for inviting us again this morning. I think you'll see a lot of commonality in our plans, similar to Tom's. We've done a lot of collaboration. I think one of the strengths in our community is the collaboration that we can have between higher ed and our K-12 institutions. So do want to let everyone know, since our last meeting, we have shifted the first day of school. Needless to say, teachers are having to make some pretty major adjustments. Normally they have 4 pre-planning days before school begins. We are extending 1 week. So school will begin on August 31st. I know there are many people who are frustrated at that, and I apologize. We have added 2 days back in later in the year on days that were not going to be student attendance days. That's where some of those Mondays that we're going to be off. Again, we'll start school on the 31st. Major aspect of our safety measures are, like Tom, face coverings, distancing, and hand washing. All of our schools are working diligently right now to put together what it will look like in their site. So if you are a parent and you want to know those details, like what will it look like for my child, know that our schools are working with their staffs to put final touches on their plans based upon their building, their staffing, number of students, et cetera. So those plans will be available no later than Wednesday the 19th. Many of those are already up on their individual school websites. At this point, we are offering 3 models. We have 60% of our families are wanting to return in person. 25% are looking for a blended model. That's a 2-day-a-week on campus model. 2 day or the 3 days remaining would be facilitated learning at home. 15% of our families are interested in a pure remote, 100% distance learning. We are continuing to hear from our families. We have about 4,100 of our 4,300 families who have responded. So we're still waiting for about 200 families to chime in and let us know their thinking on the model that's best for their child. We are asking for a commitment to that model for 9 weeks minimum. At the high school, we are asking for a semester commitment to the model of learning just because of credit bearing issues. We want to make sure our students earn the credits they need to be ready for post-secondary education. We have arranged for testing of all of our staff prior to the start of school. And so that will occur so that we can assure our families that our staff is COVID-free when we start the school year. We also have arranged for rapid testing, 24-hour from the time that we know that we need it for students or staff. So we'll be working with families. We know that our testing resources have been strained here in the local community over the last few weeks. And so we are working with a private lab to be able to expedite that. We are working with local physicians. We'll be having a Zoom call in the next week with local physicians to really facilitate that contact tracing and all of the rules and regulations about when students can come back to school. Really important to note that our plan heavily is based on cohorting, which I think you'll hear from the other superintendents too. When we can keep a group of students together and limit interaction with other adults and other children, then we can prevent closing a school if there were a positive case. We can limit that to a cohort of students who may have had exposure. We can expedite testing for those students so that we can get them back into school as rapidly as possible. So again, we're really proud. I just shared with Tom over a text that this morning we received the outliers document from Colorado. That's from A+ Colorado. And we are one of the top 4 districts in college going students who are actually pursuing college experiences in the state of Colorado and are not requiring remediation. So we're really proud of the team here in Durango 9R that are working so hard to make sure our kids are prepared. And as Tom said, these are unusual times with COVID, but again, we're focused on continuing to do the work that you expect us to do, which is educating our children to contribute ultimately to our successful community. So happy to take any questions either in the chat box or again by email, dsnoberger@durangoschools.org. Also, my direct line is 375-3819. And thanks again. We'll turn it over to the next superintendent.
Thank you, Dan. Again, this is Jameson. If you all have any questions at all, feel free to use the chat and we'll get them answered before we adjourn today. We'll turn it over to Dr. Kevin Ayton.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about the great work that's happening PK16 in Southwest Colorado. We also have delayed our start of school 1 week. We were originally going to start August 17th. We are moving to August 24th to give teachers that additional week and to give us an additional week of planning. And I think that that's been received very successfully. Yesterday, we were back. Pretty much every staff member except a few paraprofessionals returned yesterday. And I'm proud to report that morale was great. Teachers were excited. You know, we have some other kind of, you know, distance learning kinds of things we were doing over Zoom, and it is a different year, but yet they were very much engaged. Regrettably, we did have 2 teachers resign for COVID-related reasons. They just said that, you know, there's just a lot going on and they're actually going to take care of their families, and we're doing what we can to support that. But out of 100 teachers, we feel like that you know, everybody else reported for duty yesterday. Our goal overarching is to do what we do best, which is teach kids. And I have, you know, pounded my fist on the table since the beginning of this and said, we have to find a way to get back. And all of us have, when talking with Rocco and Dan and Tom, all of us have said, we've got to find a way to get kids back in school. We really view our plan as an opening of schools plan. It's a transition plan. Our goal is to be back to 100% by October. And we're saying that out loud because I believe if you say it, you believe it and you live it. So that's, you know, the virus may have other plans, but right now we're not considering that. We do not use the word, and I'm tired of hearing the word hybrid. I don't know what that is. I think it's a weird word. I don't think it explains what we're doing. We are using, as Dan said, a cohort model, very strict at K5, students are going to eat in the classroom, stay in the classroom, and if we have exposures, we can do that. We'll keep them apart at recess. Even at our K2, we've taken our elective teachers and returned them to the classroom to allow our class sizes to be smaller. At secondary, where we really have run up against the community, is also using a strict cohort model. Our first plan was to open full up. Our staff had concerns about that. We listened to them, and now we're using a Monday, Tuesday, A through L, Thursday, Friday, M through Z. So our secondary schools will all attend 2 days a week. They will still go to school 5 days, 2 days in person, 5 days virtually. So, and while our elementaries will be 5 days a week, every kid back in school in a strict cohort. We are running a census of all of our families where we've got, I think, around 2/3 of them. And we only have 2 options: 5 days a week with us or an online environment. We've only had about 5% of our families express an interest in an online environment. Overwhelmingly, the emails I'm getting, the support I'm getting, where the board is they want kids back in school. Yes, CHSAA has booted most sports to either a winter or spring schedule. We do offer cross country, so we're meeting today to make decisions about how we get kids to places and cross country, but we feel very strongly about, trying to support the kids and do what we can. Also, I'm just really grateful for all of you guys and the support and knowing that our schools are economic drivers. Getting our people back to work, getting our kids back to school is really important. But at the bottom of our plan, the top of our plan, if you will, it's that personal responsibility that Tom was speaking about. If we can stop any virus at the door with our temperature checks and wearing of masks and doing these kinds of physical distancing, then I think we have a chance. That's not popular in Eastern La Plata County. We put out a survey with 530 responses, and we had over 60 people respond and say they weren't wearing masks, no way, no how. I put out a very stern edict on Thursday. It sounds pretty much like Dr. Stridicus has, is that if you choose not to wear a mask and you're a secondary student, you will be excluded. If you choose not to wear a mask as a staff member, you will be sent home. And every staff member yesterday was, like I said, we had a very, very good day in the Bayfield School District. And don't forget, it's always a great day to be a Wolverine. So thank you for this. And there goes Rocco laughing at me. Rocco, it's probably your turn. So I'll stop. Again, if you have questions, I'm pretty widely available on Twitter and Facebook. I don't hide. K8netbayfield.k12.co.us, and I'll be happy to answer any questions when we're done. Rocco, I think you're up there, Dr. Pichetto.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I know this is the first time for me joining this meeting, so I'm glad to be here. I'd like to report that Ignacio, we are going with our schedule. We have not moved. I know I have some requests to move our starting date, and I said no. We have everything set in place, ready to go. My teacher are going through some training yesterday and today on how to teach online on the online environment. And so we're working with that. We are planning on coming back full force. We gave, the only option we gave was either you came face-to-face or you were online. And again, I think Dan mentioned, we asked for a commitment that if you choose one of those ways, then you make a commitment for at least 9 weeks. At the end of 9 weeks, we will give you the opportunity, if you would like to change from online environment or to face-to-face, then we'll evaluate them at that time. We have decided that, thank you to the government and for us receiving some Corona relief funds, we spent over $400,000 on technology. So each classroom is equipped with a 65-inch TV with a camera. So kids, we have about 90 kids, my last count, that want to do online work. So those kids will beam in using Google Hangouts right into a classroom and will watch the presentation. If a kid has math at 10 o'clock in the morning, that kid will be in the math class, actually live interaction with the students and the teacher, and be able to do ask questions and so on. So that's the only options we gave them. Over 70% of our survey from parents say we needed to come back face to face. Yes, Kevin, yes, I've had about 4, actually this week I've had 6 resignations, and I will say 4 out of 6 probably are related to coronavirus, saying they feel uncomfortable to coming back. So we're looking for teachers right now. We will start school on the 24th. Teachers will report next week. So we'll do that. One of the thing, and again, touching on what everybody else said, we are, with CHSA, we acted real quickly. So we added a boys cross-country team. I'm sorry, Kevin, my fast runners are not going to run for Bayfield this year. They're going to run for us.
Yeah,
But that's
we'll miss that.
Another opportunity for our kids to get them involved in the school and the activities. Like I said, we are ready to go. We hope for the best. And I think we have I'm going to send a big email to all my parents, and also and mailer that's going to go out this week with all the information from each one of the departments, the food service, how we're going to run that, the transportation, each school, and so on. So the parents have the complete information from one place instead of going to 5 or 6 different locations to get that. We're looking forward to, I know it's an uncertain year, but we feel the sooner we get those kids into our building, the more opportunity we have to educate them. In case the governor shuts us down again, then we have trained our teachers and we have trained our students on how to use the technology. If we have to go again, 100% online will happen in the spring. So looking forward to a very exciting school year. We do ask parents, teachers, staff, and everybody, be flexible, be positive, and we're doing the best we can with the information you have on this particular moment, which it could change within the next hour. I'm sorry I have to leave because I have my administrators waiting for me in my boardroom for a meeting. So thank you very much, and I will like to participate in the future. Thank you. Have a great day.
Awesome. We appreciate the updates from all of our educators, superintendents, and Tom up at the college. Boy, you guys have got your hands full in navigating this environment, and we appreciate all you're doing to keep educating our young adults. We'll turn it over to Tony Vicari at the airport and get an update from him.
Good morning, everybody. Tony Vicari, the Director of Aviation at the Durango-La Plata County Airport. I provided a few slides this morning, and I think we'll prompt, here we go, jump right into them. So we could jump to the next slide. We'll just jump right into it. So I think as everyone is very aware, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a very significant impact on commercial aviation worldwide, and then obviously here in Durango. Just right off the top, this particular pandemic is completely unprecedented in our particular industry. You can see on the chart on the right, the drop that we've seen worldwide and nationwide as a result of the pandemic on passenger demand far outdwarfs any previous incident we have seen in our industry, which includes the September 11 terrorist attacks and the Great Recession more recently. So we're definitely in uncharted territory as we begin this recovery. Most industry estimates put a full recovery nationwide at anywhere from 2 to 5 years until we're back at 2019 level commercial service traffic levels once again. So a long road ahead, but the recovery has started. We can move to the next slide, please. So zooming in at Durango, you can see 2019 offset versus 2020. For us, the low point was in April when we only ran 5% of 2019 level traffic here at the airport. Our recovery has been incremental as we move forward on this front. So we saw slow increases in May up through June, and then just got our final July numbers in where we hit 38% of 2019 level traffic. So next slide, please. If you look at the actual gross traffic levels for 2020, you can see that our recovery has been pretty incremental since about May 1st, when the recovery started coming out of the low period during April. On that front, we saw a pretty incremental recovery through the end of June, at which point we saw a pretty significant uptick in demand following the 4th of July holiday, and then a leveling once again of traffic through the back half of July. And if we jump to the next slide, you can see this offset with US averages. So this is one of the more interesting statistics we can kind of share. So the blue line here is Durango, and the orange is the US average. So what you can see is that our recovery has significantly outpaced the US average recovery in terms of commercial traffic recovery over the last handful of months here. And that differential has really become pronounced since early July. What you saw is, as the pandemic really moved forward in the late June, early July period nationwide, the US average actually declined, and we saw resuppessed demand for commercial traffic, whereas in Durango that only increased. Through the first handful days of August, we're at about 45% of 2019 level traffic. That's opposed to about 28% for the US average. So we continue to be almost 50% higher than what the US average is seeing. That is very consistent with what most other Colorado airports are reporting. The recovery in our industry has been most pronounced in the Mountain West and the Southern United States. Here on this slide, you can see some zoomed in statistics on a few different metrics here at the airport. The top line is passenger traffic data, which is our baseline. It drives about 75% of the revenues here at the airport. And you can see some trends emerging on our end. Parking revenue, which is indicative of local utilization of the airport, is thus far lagging the recovery on this end, whereas rental car revenue is definitively leading the recovery. We're also seeing a faster recovery in aviation fuel flowage, and then air freight has most certainly been the least impacted statistic. That TBD for July, I just got the numbers back, and it looks like it's actually going to be about plus 5% over 19 for the July number. So you can see some trends emerging early where we're seeing some stronger inbound visitation, particularly in the summer, stronger demand subsequently for rental car revenue, suppressed utilization of our parking lot, but a significantly stronger air freight impact. Next slide, please. Talking specifically about airline schedules, we are in definitely a different world in our specific industry. Typically, airlines are publishing final schedules at least 90 to 120 days prior to implementation. Due to the pandemic, that's narrowed down to as far as only 3 to 5 weeks. So we're seeing final schedules coming out very late. And what we're seeing really is different trends from the two carriers at our airport. American Airlines has been by far the more aggressive carrier. Right now, they're flying 2 to 3 daily trips nonstop to Dallas, Fort Worth, and 1 to Phoenix. They were the first to increase frequencies back in early July. United matched that with an added frequency to Denver in August. And then the early schedules we've just seen for September show American once again ratcheting it up to 4 daily flights to DFW, and then adding a second daily back into Phoenix. So as a result of that, what we've seen is historically over the last handful of years, United and American have split the market share at DRO almost 50-50. But so far through the recovery period due to the pandemic, we're seeing American emerge as by far, as I mentioned, the aggressive carrier. They captured 65% of our market share in July, which is a substantial differentiation from the norm. As of now, we feel really strong about all of our nonstop markets. We don't feel that any of them are in jeopardy in our discussions with the airlines, and we think we're going to be a pretty resilient market on the recovery. So, next slide, please. A lot of bullet points here. I'll let everyone read these. So this is just a quick breakdown on some of the measures the airport is taking as it relates to public health in our facilities. Early on, we were a early leader in terms of adopting a self-certification with San Juan Basin Public Health, implementing significant new signage and other floor markings, sneeze guards, seating closures, et cetera, to try to continue to make the airport on the forefront of industry best practices for encouraging social distancing in our terminal. We have mandated the use of masks in our terminal since before Memorial Day and continue to see that. The airlines are all consistent in their enforcement of that policy, and subsequently we've seen quite strong compliance with that particular measure in the terminal, and thus far have had no issues with any reported outbreaks, whether that be airport staff or passenger traffic. So we're very pleased with how that has worked out in our facility so far. Next slide, please. Looking at recovery forecasts, we've developed a range of recovery scenarios for 2020 and also in looking into 2021. Right now, the forecast you see below is what we're using as an airport staff for our 2020 projections. The January through July numbers are actuals as a percentage of 2019 traffic, and then August and beyond are forecast numbers that we're using to baseline our revenue projections moving forward. So you can see we're forecasting incremental growth through the end of the year, but definitely subdued. Still looking at perhaps up to about a 50% of 2019 volumes by year end. Next slide, please. Looking a little longer term, it's, as I mentioned, this is an unprecedented event, so it's a little more difficult to baseline exactly what our recovery is going to be looking like. If we do look specifically at past events, such as the September 11 terrorist attacks or the Great Recession, you can see varying levels of recovery. Recovery after the terrorist attacks nationwide took about 2.5 years, whereas the Great Recession had more deep impacts through the industry and took nearly 7 years to fully recover in terms of gross passenger traffic. The obvious differentiation here, amongst other things, is that in both those cases, the actual peak drop from prior year employment levels was less than 10%, whereas this particular event, we're anticipating that nationwide, the overall 2019 reduction in employments is going to be greater than 50%. So this far outdwarfs any of these prior events and really kind of resets the idea about what recovery looks like. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, most industry forecasts project that a recovery is going to be somewhere most likely in the 2023 or 2024 type timeframe. Early recovery estimates were pegging this a little more near term. Most updated statistics coming from bond rating companies, airlines, manufacturers, and other forecasting entities have begun to push this out a little bit further, as you can see here, into that 2024 type of timeline on our front. Next slide, please. Blank slide. So, there we go. So this is just looking a little more granular. This is a forecast provided by a company we work with on some air service development, looking more granularly at specific months. And if you just zoom down to the bottom, you can see that what we're looking at is a calendar year 2020 potential reduction in passengers nationwide of nearing 60%. That number is forecast to be probably about a net 25% decrease off the 2019 baseline for next calendar year. And as I mentioned, full recovery potentially not happening until the 2023 or 2024 type timeframe. Next slide. And talking about more optimistic pieces, the airport is moving forward with some capital projects here at the airport. Earlier this year, we did complete a terminal area plan study, which I think multiple people on this call were involved with or familiar with to some degree. In 2019, the airport acquired a 12.5 acre parcel of land adjacent to our terminal complex, which really allowed us to relook at long-term terminal development here at the airport in a less landlocked type of condition. As a result, our plan is moving forward with the ultimate expansion of terminal facilities on the existing footprint, utilizing existing infrastructure and leveraging that land acquisition. The upside of our particular plan that's been recently adopted by both the City Council and Board of County Commission allows for incremental development at the airport, utilizing airport revenue streams and in conjunction with demand. And that only really comes to the forefront now as our funding streams become threatened through the pandemic environment, and also demand really enters into a new world at this point. So we feel really good about where our terminal area plan study puts us and really puts us in a good position to take advantage of any funding opportunities to move quickly to leverage existing infrastructure and expand the terminal in conjunction with funding availability and demand as it recovers. On a more fun side, you can see the picture right, our before and after for our restroom rehabilitation. We completed that in May, so we're continuing to invest in our existing facilities to try to improve the passenger experience here at DRO. Just last week, we began construction on a $3 million reconstruction of our commercial apron, the area where aircraft park and stage at the terminal, to address failing asphalt pavement. That is done through predominant funding through the Federal Aviation Administration's AIP grant process. And we'll be beginning design on a significant runway rehabilitation process this fall with planned 2022 construction on our end. So we are moving forward with capital projects as they make sense for us here at the airport. So Dan here, I just have a question. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them in the chat box. I think that what I would just leave everyone with is that the airport's in good shape. For those that aren't familiar, the airport's an enterprise fund of the city of Durango, meaning that we exist financially independent and generate all of our revenues through user fees that are generated here at the airport. We do not use any local sales nor property tax funding for operations or capital here at the airport. We were in a strong position before the pandemic with over a year of cash on hand in terms of operating expenses. And we also have a cash influx through funding that's become available through the CARES Act for our specific location. So we're in a good position financially, and we feel like we're well hunkered down to be able to recover through the pandemic. And the fact that we're on the forefront of that recovery, along with other Mountain West communities, puts us in a good position to really come through this strongly. We'll certainly have to reassess the timing, particularly of our capital projects here at the airport, but we feel good about where we're at and our ability to continue to provide reliable air service for the region. That's all I have today.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate you being with us this morning. Mr. Rogoff.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Alex Rugoff, Business Development Coordinator with the City of Durango. Thank you for inviting me to speak this morning. Good to see a lot of familiar faces. For those of you who know me, won't be surprised to hear that I'm going to be speaking about the Urban Renewal Authority of Durango, the URA. Our URA is known locally as the Durango Renewal Partnership. We feel that we don't really think of Durango as urban, and we view this as more of a partnership than really an authority. The URA was formed on May 5th this year, but we spent the past few years before that trying to build community support, gather feedback from local government, business organizations, community groups, citizens, and so forth. The Durango Renewal Partnership and URAs across the state are popular redevelopment organizations that help incentivize investment and redevelopment in areas that need some sort of partnership, whether that's incentives or other creative financing tools to help incentivize new development. For the Durango Renewal Partnership, what we're really looking at locally is affordable and attainable housing. It's no surprise that we have a higher housing cost here. We're about, I believe, 20% above the state average. And what we're looking at to help incentivize is both market and affordable housing to help bring down those costs. Of course, affordable housing, though, requires some type of incentives or creative financing to make it financially feasible for the developer. We're also looking at types of mixed-use development, walkable development. The city's been holding these character district plans where we go into certain character districts such as North Main, College and 8th, and hold community sessions, listening sessions. And what we've heard time and time again is that a lot of these residential neighborhoods are looking for more mixed-use, walkable development. And so we're going to be looking at how we can help facilitate that. We're also working closely with the Alliance on helping facilitate light industrial and support for local industry. This is now more important than ever with what's been happening with COVID and how that impacts our tourism. We have a big tourism economy here, but we want to become more and more resilient. And so we've been having conversations with a lot of local manufacturers that want to grow locally, but are having trouble with development costs. The limited supply of land, the high cost of labor, all of that make it harder and harder to grow here. And so we see the URA playing a crucial role in creating some of these public-private partnerships that can help facilitate development.
Looks like we lost Alex. We'll give him a quick second to come back on. If not, Matt, are you ready and we can bring Alex back in?
Yeah, Mike, I'm ready. If you guys can hear me all.
Yep, certainly can.
Okay. I'll let you get to the slides, guys. Thank you, Mike, for inviting me. And thanks to everybody on this call. It's amazing to sit and listen to the leadership in this community. I've had a chance to work with some of you over the last 4 months as we've started Aid to All, which if you haven't heard about us, we're live now at www.aidtoall, that's AIDTOALL.org. And we are a first of its kind experiment in philanthropy where anyone in this community whose income has been impacted by COVID and can't pay their bills this month has a safe place online to apply for aid. And we provide anyone who can help with any amount of donation a trusted place to give it. And we've been taking applications and donations as of last week, as Mike mentioned. We're now up, this was yesterday's stat, raised in the community a little over $90,000. And we will be providing grants to approved applicants that range between $250 and $1,500. We'll fund at the end of the month, and we've got a funding committee with several community leaders, including Mike Burns at Alpine, Roger Z, Scott Shine, and Ashley Tarkington. They will be looking through and making sure that we're following what our mission really is, to provide public charity in times of disaster and crisis. The Herald printed an article that said that they will be ranking and reviewing each applicant. I want to make sure that everyone knows that is not the case. We've got a confidential process that will make it so that every application is treated equally. And based on the hardship and available funds at the end of the month, we'll grant. And then we'll rinse and repeat starting in September. We're designed to raise money, but first raising awareness through applications online and fund hardships each month. We're starting with individuals, use case 1, and we'll quickly move into a format where we're going to be helping small businesses in our community. If this pilot's successful, the plan is to expand into other geographies. While are focused on La Plata County and over the last 4 months have had an incredible amount of support from this community, and it wouldn't be possible to be here without this community. The Chamber, Business Improvement District, the city government, county representatives, and importantly, Mike and the Alliance. Mike has been a partner for Aid to All and with me since we started about 4 months ago, and has been absolutely integral to making sure that the community and the access and availability of this is pervasive. He is a wonderful representation of this community, not only just for the business community, but in general. So thank you, Mike, for your partnership. I want to walk very quickly through not the entire website, but the application itself. This is the most important piece that I think everyone on this call can see. We've designed it so that from start to finish, an applicant can complete the application in 10 minutes or less. I'll go quickly through the slides and show you what the sort of 10 steps are, or 10 screens are. And then at the end of this, I'd like to ask everyone to help, and I'll tell you how you can do that. So when you click on Apply Now, right now on the application or online, you'll see the following, and it says Help Starts Now. And this language is meant to guide folks through what they need and what to expect. We'll need applicants to provide proof of income prior to the crisis to be eligible. As a disaster relief focused 501c3 public charity, we are funding hardships and the criteria is you had a job or income prior to COVID, and now you cannot pay your monthly bills. If that hardship is established, you're eligible to receive a grant, and those grants are tax exempt to any recipient. We'll ask to provide information on income, and we have a download section that I'll walk through quickly. We could do that. You can facilitate the app, including downloading any docs using your phone or your computer, and we've made it as easy as we can. And then we ask to provide any information on prior or existing COVID-related assistance and existing income so that we can most accurately identify need and spread our community's dollars who are trusting that when they are donated aid to all, they are as effective as they can be. We don't charge any fees for any donations because we think every dollar counts. And sometimes we say around this shop that there is no fee for generosity. And then we ask for some documents, and starting with getting you registered at the app, which Mike has pulled up here. That's our registration process. Step one, you create an account that provisions you into a secure area. Very intuitive process. Once you're registered with an email address, this is the response you'll see in your inbox. When you click confirm email address, Mike, will you pull the slide forward? You'll quickly go back to the site and it will give you this message and allow you to start entering application information. So I'll walk you through the few pages that we've designed to make it as easy as we can to get applicant information and documents and information required to establish eligibility for hardship-based grant, and then finish the application. So this is the page where we collect personally identifiable information. We're wired to LexisNexis that does fraud prevention and fraud scoring for us. This is our gateway to make sure that folks that are applying are good actors. And then you'll see at the bottom, we ask information about households, and meaning you can apply as an individual, or if you're in a household that's where there are multiple income earners, you're applying on behalf of the household. And then we'll allow you to describe and want as much information as we can from the applicant in this text box below. So that helps us understand the individual needs and the situations at home as best we can as we learn this month in terms of what our community needs. And then step one, providing information on your household income. You'll see the questions are designed to ask for what we call pre-crisis take-home income and your current take-home income. And then we'll ask you to provide any information on Unemployment and CARES Act assistance and other COVID-related assistance, and to be able to provide details with that. And then, Mike, next slide. We ask you to identify and itemize expenses, because we're here to help you meet this month's need. When I say you, I mean anyone in the community of La Plata County who's eligible to apply. So those are in the categories of basic household expenses: rent, utilities, childcare, healthcare, food, and then the opportunity to tell us about any other personal expense that may not fall in these categories and what that is, so that we can get as much information as possible, so that at the end, this last question, which is your current need. Might go back one slide. So this current need is, how much assistance do you need to pay your household bills this month? We have grant ranges, and we'll look at income now and income prior to COVID and your household expenses. But we want to hear from everybody who applies as to what they need. And that's what this question is specifically for. That ends the application questions. And then we get to a point where we can download documents. Mike, if you want to get to that slide. This is specifically designed so that you can drag and drop as many files into each of these boxes, either by taking a picture on your phone during the app or loading it from a menu. Income and documents to establish pre and post-COVID income are the top box. Utility bills and other household bills are the second box. Picture of a driver's license or any government issued photo ID is the third box, and then anything else you may want to drop in the last box. Once you've done that, you can click to the next step and you complete the application. This is a signature page providing acknowledgement and consent to the privacy policy and terms and conditions, and that you have provided all the information you can before you submit your application. You hit submit, and you will, Mike, I think if this isn't the last slide, yeah, this is the email that you'll receive, which talks about next steps, and then you can go back to the portal and check on the status of your app. So to wrap up, I have just one ask of folks on this call. So we are live. We've raised $90,000 as of yesterday morning. I think we saw another $5,000 or $6,000 come through yesterday. And we have over $50,000 already requested from applicants that need aid. I would urge anyone who can to let everyone they know that can either donate or that needs help to come to the site and apply. So spread the word, and you can spread the word either through email. We'll provide some information on how to reach out, or you can go to any of our social media assets. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram. And you can share our story and let folks know that right now that help is available. And right now, our donations are ahead of our total need. I hope that continues to be the case throughout the next couple of weeks as we're taking applications and then fund at the end of the month. So Mike, thanks for inviting me on board. I think I got through 10 minutes and at least as succinct a summary as I've ever done on this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you. Thank you for your partnership, and thank you for everything you do for the community. Again, it's aidtoall.org. And what Matt wasn't able to show is there's a great video that introduces the campaign. So we sent out a notice to all membership with that link of aidtoall.org last week. You can go back to that, and we'll continue to update this week as well. Alex, if you're ready, I'm going to bring you back.
I'm ready.
And
I'm gonna keep my camera off. Hopefully that will help. Thanks for bringing me back here. Thank you, Matt, for all the great work you're doing at Aid to All. Back to the Urban Renewal Authority here. We're now in the process of looking at a few areas that we see as prime for development, whether that's the housing, the mixed use, the light industrial types of development. And we're really trying to line these up with our character districts. So we've gone through and spoken to the business owners in these areas and community groups in these areas to try and get feedback. We have about 7 or so districts, we'll call them, where we see as prime for development. North Main, what we're calling Midtown. This Midtown area is essentially from 9R and Buckley Park all the way up to the crossing north with Camino and the bridge. We've heard a lot of interest from developers there in housing and mixed use projects, and we feel that could be a good way to help shape the future of 9R and retain Buckley Park as it is. We're also looking at Bodo and potentially redevelopment of the mall. We see Sawmill as a prime spot for some late industrial development and connection to Ewing Mesa. And then of course, La Posta. La Posta's out in the county right now, but there is a process should a URA application be helpful there to help facilitate some of the light industrial that we'd like to see. And I didn't really get to hit on tax increment financing, but a lot of the big incentive that URAs have access to that other local government entities don't is what's called tax increment financing, or TIF. TIF essentially takes the difference in tax revenue generated by development. So for example, you create a tax increment district, say there's 2 parcels, in this example on the right, those 2 parcels are spinning off about $60,000 a year in property tax revenue. Some development happens, maybe it's some commercial component comes in, there's some sales tax revenue. The next year, those 2 parcels spin off about $100,000 in sales and property tax revenue. So that difference between that 100 of year 2 and 60 in year 1, that $40,000 difference is eligible to go back to help pay for costs such as infrastructure, public improvements, maybe affordable housing, offset the cost to lower prices on housing. all sorts of way to help facilitate development. We've seen it happen in Montrose, where the URA helps pay for infrastructure to support growth of a light industrial manufacturing park. We've seen it been used in Arvada to help support streetscaping and beautify some of their commercial districts. We've seen it used in Wheat Ridge to support senior housing, affordable housing for seniors. And so there's the good thing is we're not, creating the wheel here. We can, look at other places where it's been done successfully and use this tool to help achieve some of our shared vision and most pressing needs. Mike, you can go to the last slide. I'll wrap it up. I think I've taken up my 5 minutes, but just two things I want to hit on really quickly is the city recently received a $20,000 grant from the Department of Local Affairs to help plan for and implement an affordable and attainable housing development strategy. We are also working with Downtown Colorado Inc., DCI. They have a good statewide network of housing development leaders who we're hoping to bring in and implement some of these projects. We're also contracting with SEH, formerly Russell Planning and Engineering. They have, a lot of expertise around this and really understand our local challenges and some of our opportunities here. We'll be having our next board meeting on Tuesday, August 18th, a week from today, 4:36. And during that board meeting, we'll kind of go through some of these 7 or 8 areas we see as prime for development. And we're hoping to have the board give us back their feedback to staff. And so we can really start prioritizing 1 or 2 areas and start the process of creating an urban renewal plan, start holding some community meetings with the development community as well, and really start to get the ball rolling and hone in on where we want to see reinvestment and redevelopment here. That's my contact information there. Please reach out with any questions, concerns, interest, whatever it may be. Thank you, Mike, for the opportunity to present today.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Appreciate you jumping back on. Matt, there were a couple of questions in chat, if you're still online, that you could answer. And if anybody has any other questions, please just go to chat and one of the panelists will pick it up. Yes, sir.
So I did, and I really appreciate the questions coming in. And I think Mike Burns was on, who encouraged us, any of us, Mike at Eight to All and the funding committee, to sit down with anyone who wants to talk about how we can partner better with, in the case of Lynn's question, the county's Human Services Department and other folks like the Salvation Army and Housing Solutions, to make sure that we're doing this together and that our dollars and our efforts stretch as far as they can in this community. So I've put my email address in here. Just email me directly and I'll get with everyone and find the best venue and the best format to do that in. It's our view that there's not enough in general, and that we want to make sure that we are integrated with everything that's going on in this community. So we welcome that opportunity to sit down with anyone and all of you that want to talk about what we're doing, so we can learn from you and your experiences and ensure that we are additive as a collective in terms of the amount of aid getting to as many people as we can in this county right now. So I will leave it at that, and just email me directly and I'll get things coordinated. And thank you.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks for the availability.
Yeah, of course.
Jameson, you want to introduce our government partners?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. I think it's a great question as well, Lynn, and thanks, Matt, for being willing to kind of sit down and make sure that everybody's collaborative and involved in the conversation. We'll turn over to Clive Church, the County Commission Chair, for an update on La Plata County.
Thank you very much, Jameson. I've been asked to speak on land use code, but I want to hit 2 things here. One that's good for our community. Both of them are good for our community. One ties into what Matt was just talking about. The county has received approval to go ahead and apply for $3.9 million additional revenue on the COVID virus relief fund. And that's to cover unplanned COVID expenses by both the county, Durango, Bayfield, and Ignacio. And so this will help our budgets in those areas. The other thing is Department of Human Services in the county manages several different federal programs, and Colorado Works households that are open as of July 31st will receive $500. Secondly, the SNAP householding are being maxed out proportional to the homeowner's size, and that's without work requirement. So there's more aid coming through other channels, and wanted to let everybody know about that in case you have someone that needs it. Now back on the land use, land code, we are making great progress. We've been working at this for almost 4 years now. We've been taking comment through the district planning process. We've been taking comment in writing through the planning portal and personal comments. It's been very useful. It's revised many of the drafts that we've had going forward. We're in version 2 right now, working on the final version and taking public comments. So as of this week, we will have 2 more public hearings. Today, August 11th at 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And then again, for those people that can't make an afternoon meeting, we'll be listening and taking comment from 6 to 8 p.m. So again, you can participate in live in the boardroom or via Zoom or on the telephone, and stream video and audio from our website. So please get your comments to us as soon as possible. The deadline for comments for version 3 is Friday, August 14th. That's this Friday. And this version 3 of the code is what will be considered an adoption for adoption on August 15th. And we're getting ready, really close to completing this project. And we've been working, again, like I said, 4 years on it. Community input's been essential to getting it right. And we've greatly appreciated all the effort of so many citizens and groups that put into the project. There are lots of ways to comment, including the meeting tonight, or you can go to newcode@co.laplata.co.us or via the comment portal. So please, we want to hear from you soon. This version of the code will be flexible. We will continue revising it and working with the community and looking to strengthen it, looking to make it more effective and faster and meet the goals that we set for this 2 years ago. So again, thank you very much for your participation. The Alliance has made significant contributions, and we want to hear from you. So thank you.
Super. Thank you, Commissioner Church. We'll go to Ignacio and have Sharon Craig give an update.
Hey, good morning. Just wanted to let you know that town's doing well, but we don't have much of an update. But our Ignacio Chamber is working to plan our annual Green Chili Fest. We're looking at September 12th, 2 p.m. We're using the El High Community Center. There's a lot of outdoor area there, so it's hard to plan an event not knowing what the restrictions or demands will be, but we're going to keep going on that. On a side note, Katie Sickles, the new town manager from Bayfield, and myself were elected to the Colorado Municipal League Executive Board. I say this because I think that's important, that we have a perspective from Southwest Colorado as this league works to lobby in legislation for all of our municipalities. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. I know Ashley was not able to join us this morning from Bayfield, so we'll move on to Counselor Barbara Noseworthy.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for the excellent update on the school system. So just a quick update on three items. Right now, we're looking at a decline of 13% in our sales tax revenue, which is much better than we had anticipated. We've been adjusting our budget accordingly, and our folks who were furloughed will be back in operation. So we're pleased about that. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation, as you may have read in the paper, is proceeding with the alleged embezzlement case. And also as a result, the council is looking at a forensic audit that would review operations and guardrails in several of our departments. So while we don't we're not thinking that we have any other incidents, we want to make certain that that's the case. So this forensic audit can help us with that. And finally, the search for the city manager is proceeding. We will be having interviews. I apologize, those dates aren't set yet for the public, but we will be interviewing Jose Madrigal and Amber Blake as finalists for that. We had a third finalist originally, but that person accepted an offer elsewhere. So we did, sorry to lose him, but understand the conditions under which he accepted it. So those are the big reports I have. I'm happy to take any questions.
Super, thank you, Councilor Noseworthy. As Mike mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, sorry, go ahead. All right. As Mike mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, our September schedule is a little bit different with Labor Day in there, so the meeting will be bumped to September 15th. We'll get some more updates out around that to make sure that that gets on everyone's calendar. We really appreciate everyone dialing in this morning, tuning in, taking it from home and in the car and wherever you're at. We feel like we continue to try and find topics that are important back to the community related to economic development. Hopefully you guys find value in these, and someday, hopefully we can all get back in the same room and return to some resemblance of our in-person meetings. I'll turn it over to Mike for any closing comments as well.
Thanks, Jameson. Yeah, appreciate all the panelists. We're going to do our best to get back to meetings that are under an hour. I realize people budget an hour for these meetings, and we'll definitely publish a newsletter within the next 10 business days for all of the entities that were not able to participate live and provide an update. With that, I thank membership and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, Mike.